Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Messinio, President and CEO of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce, here with another Member Spotlight video. And today I'm very pleased to have Sharon McDonald from Effective Grants here with us today. Tell us a little bit about her business. So, Sharon, thank you for joining me today. And, well, I'm going to kind of put it in your ball court here and tell a little people about what you do, how you do it, and how it benefits the businesses and people you serve in the community.
Terrific. Well, first, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
So I am the president of Effective Grants, and what I do is provide consultation to nonprofit organizations, institutions of higher ed, anyone with a 501c3 status, for grant development. And so that means I help these organizations to raise money by writing and submitting grants to private foundations, family foundations, and corporate foundations, as well as public grants that could be state or federal. So I work with a number of organizations locally in Marlborough. I also do things domestically across the United States and globally. I have some international clients.
Awesome.
I also teach grant writing. And I also wear a different hat in which I provide consultation to the grant makers. So foundations will come to me in partnership and ask my help on their application process. Is it user-friendly? I recently worked with a foundation to provide technical assistance because they felt like they needed to give their grantees equitable access. You know, some nonprofits are very small. They don't have the resources that I can offer. So that was a really great partnership. I like to teach, so I find that's part of everything I do, even with my own clients. So I guess locally in Marlborough, I like to support nonprofits who are searching to make a difference. And that's how I got started in the business, is that I was an English major. I love to write. And I was fortunate in college to do an internship in a marketing and public relations department and quickly learned about development and what that meant. And so that's how I got my start. I fell in love with fundraising, and it was a great way that I could make a difference because I'm only one person. So I can't volunteer at every nonprofit that I fall in love with.
So you specifically are focusing on nonprofits, and that's great. There's so many, nonprofits in the area, both big and small. What's your approach when somebody says, Sharon, I'm looking for a grant to support what are some of the opportunities that where specifically you can support them with, various grants that are available? Right.
So that's a really good question. A lot of folks come to me at different stages of their fundraising, and I bring a unique approach to it. There are some folks out there who are grant writers, and that's solely what they do is do the writing. I do everything, including the writing. So I'm part of a bigger strategy, and I first began my career as an assistant director of development. So I learned about the importance of grants in the revenue process for a nonprofit and looked at it holistically. So it's much more than a transaction. It's really a strategy on not just getting the dollars, although that's my goal, is to raise money. It's really about forward thinking for your whole year. What are the programs that need funding? Are they grant fundable? Is a grant the right source of the revenue? Perhaps you need an individual donor. Maybe you should focus on your special events. Maybe you have some earned income stream that you need to work on. So we look at an assessment for nonprofit clients that really focuses on the big picture. And then I will work with them in different levels. Some people hire me if they have an existing development team, they may hire me to mentor an early career person or to do research to help find the funders. Other folks hire me to do soup to nuts, and I manage it from beginning to end based on their fiscal year. We set a goal that we need to raise, and I do everything from cultivating the funders, introducing them, and working with the frontline staff to package and sell their programs to the funders and get the money.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in terms of where do they get the money from, I assume you're working not only from state-based grants, but also that you mentioned corporate foundations. So you work with those large corporations that have foundations, and you're helping them coordinate to support the area nonprofits that are actually looking for some support.
Right. So I've been doing this for nearly 30 years. So I have a really good understanding of the landscape, but I work with a number of databases and pay for subscriptions. I go to all the meetings, and I'm always looking. So there could be it can be a small bank foundation, with grants maybe up to 5,000. It could be a major family foundation that's very well established. You've got national funders like Kresge and so forth who have really been in the business for a long time. And then you also have the public grants, which, they come with their whole other different approach. And, for those, it's all the same in grant development. There's best practices that we use regardless of the source, but it really focuses on the back of the house once you get the grant. So, what do you do? So the public grants are a little bit different than the private funders.
Sure. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, as far as, you mentioned, like I said, you do a nonprofit. Do you do any for-profit, working with any for-profit companies? I know there's things like the workforce training grants. Do you do any work in that realm, or do you have connections where people, can access those if knowing your knowledge and experience with grants in general?
Well, that's also a good question. Through the pandemic, I got a lot of outreach from small businesses who were looking for support to capitalize on workforce development funding and so forth. But because my area of expertise is focused on nonprofits, I really haven't strayed in that area.
Gotcha.
But recently, I've had a couple of inquiries, and I thought, one of my colleagues was like, why aren't you doing that? It's the same approach. They're filling out an application, it's vetting, it's evaluating whether you're eligible and so forth. So stay tuned. I may tip my toe into that eventually.
Right.
But right now there's so much demand in the nonprofit world that I've been very, very fortunate to have a wide berth of clients that I get to support.
So with the nonprofits, you work with them all sizes, I assume?
I work with nonprofits just for scale. I have some nonprofits whose annual operating budget is less than $250,000, and I work with institutions of higher ed who have 100 million plus budgets. So it really is a diverse group of organizations. I work with clients that I feel drawn to their missions.
Okay.
Because I feel like I can really support them and I understand them. With that said, some folks aren't grant ready. So even the best and brightest of the nonprofits, I've had to, had hard conversations with folks when we've delved into their grant needs and just say, you're just not ready yet. There's grant readiness, and I just need to make sure that you're going to be competitive. So a lot of folks, again, like I said, look at it as a transaction that they just have to write the proposal. And the way I look at it is the proposal is the last step in the process. It needs to be perfect and it needs to adhere to the rules and the guidelines, but you really need to do your due diligence as a nonprofit. If your financials aren't up to date, if you got any skeletons in the closet regarding, your program, if there's anything we need to know about, we need to get that all taken care of because it's a very public process with the grant development.
So what you do really sounds like you're almost like a consultant, like a business coach who helps an organization with a business plan or a marketing plan. What you're doing is like developing a grant plan, and there's structure to that, and it's not just, hey, help me write a grant to get some funding for my nonprofit. So
exactly,
that's really interesting.
And that's where the teaching comes in because I love to teach folks. So when I get a new organization who's never had any grant development experience, I love those because I can work with them from the ground up and give them the best practices that I know. And it doesn't change. I've been doing this for, 3 decades, and it's still the same policies and approach that you need to use. There's different nuances that have come up that we need to pay attention to. There's been an ebb and flow in funding sources in that many, many years ago, funders were more willing to give general operating grants, these unrestricted grants, so you could just do what you needed and fill the gaps. Then there was a flow where folks were very outcomes based and they wanted program. And now there's we're coming back around. People really see the value of unrestricted dollars. Nonprofits need that flexibility. So, yeah, I love to do that. And for those who are that I've been with for many, many years, I still approach it every year as this is a new fiscal year. We're starting from scratch, and I'm still holding them to the same. Are your financials in order? Did you do your operating budget? What's the board look like? And things like that.
Excellent. So outside of nonprofits, in terms of connecting you to them for those who are in need to actually have a grant strategy put in place, What are some other good referrals for you? Who do you want to connect with to help not only support your business, but support the businesses that you're serving?
Sure. So I'm always looking for connections with maybe a corporation or a bank or a private foundation who's looking for grantees or starting a grant program. Like I said, I'm providing technical assistance to foundations recently on their approach. They are also doing mentoring programs, and I love to do that. So I love to be part of that. So if there are businesses out there who would love to have a charitable arm, I'd love to help them put that application together and maybe even match them with nonprofits. I have a number of organizations. Like I said, I typically, my folks stay with me, which I'm really fortunate. And then sometimes we've been together so long and they've been so successful that we move on. So I always have a long list of funders, organizations that I work with that I'm happy to refer to potential donors and such. Other than that, I think those would be the key connections that I'd like to make.
Awesome. Well, your contact information is up on this video here. Are those generally the best ways to reach out to you? Do you prefer phone or email? What's the best way?
Yeah, phone or email work. Like I said before, no website yet, just because I've been very fortunate. Word of mouth has been really successful for me. So
awesome.
I'm always willing to take inquiries. And if I can't help them, happy to make the connection to someone else.
Excellent. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for sharing everything you do and the support you provide nonprofits and of course, those people that they support in the community. It sounds like an awesome business, and we're glad to have you as a member of the chamber and be able to offer you as a resource to those in need. So thanks again. And that takes care of our Member Spotlight video today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.